Tony Parker joins us now, NBA champion, NBA All-Star, and Finals MVP, and his new book is out, Beyond All of My Dreams. And that's really where I want to start, where the book starts, because you're, as self-described, a little French kid trying to figure it out and playing in all these competitions, and then you make it over to the Hoop Summit, and then you realize, wait, so when it first dawned on you that I'm not just somebody who loves the NBA, I can play and compete with these players, when did that moment happen for you?
Like you said, at first it was a dream, and it was a very, very far dream because you have to put it in perspective. Back then, it was not a lot of Europeans, in the NBA. It was a huge deal when you get drafted, in the first round, and no European point guard made it in the NBA. So Pop took a big risk on me. He gambled because it was like end of the first round, and like I said, like it was only, I don't know, Vlade Divac, Stojakovic, but that's it. Me, Dirk, and Pau, we all arrived kind of at the same time. And for me, my goal was like, if I can be a good little backup point guard and I can play 10 minutes, I'll be happy. That was really like my goals because I didn't know if I can play in the NBA. And so the Nike Hoop Summit was a good first stage, but it's against guys the same age as you. But when you arrive at the NBA, it's a whole new world. And so when I first played the first couple games, I had no idea that Pop will start me after 5 games. And that was maybe the first time that I was like, man, if Pop trusts me like that, maybe I have a chance to do something.
The draft itself was a mystery to you. And it's funny reading the book and how you kind of had it nailed. You said you and your father had done all this research. We're like, look, if we go now, we're going to go to a better team because we're going to go late. But I'd always heard the Celtics stories. Yep. What happened? What happened with the lead up, the workouts, and then minutes before you thought you were going? Tell us that whole story.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was sitting down with my dad and my agent, and you have the lady from the NBA. She comes and get me because I was in a crowd. I was very high because I was not a lottery pick. And she comes and she said, the Celtics want to draft you. Here's the cap. And I hold the cap maybe for like 45 seconds after they came back. And it's like, no, they're not going to draft you. They changed their mind. And I was like, oh, my God. So I went back up to my seat and just waited. And thank enough, the Spurs kept their word and they drafted me.
Did Pop like you at first?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was R.C. Buford and Sam Presti. They're the two who find me, in France and forced Pop to watch my tapes. Pop didn't even want to watch my tapes. He was like, a point guard from France. Like, no way. And then R.C. and Sam convinced him and did the first workout. I was terrible in the first workout. He never wanted to see me again. And R.C. and Sam had so much trust in me and confidence that he forced Pop to do a second workout. And then I played good in the second workout. And then Pop told me, okay, we're going to draft you, but we're going to have to do some stuff in the draft to go higher because there's no way you're going to be available at 28. Everybody's saying you're going to go like 20 or 21 to Boston because Boston that year had 3 picks in the first round. So they could have taken a risk on the European. And then I fell all the way down to 28. So they have to give up nothing and they had me. So it was perfect for them.
Yeah, because you say like how bad Boston wanted you, and then you're like, okay, they had 10, 11. They took Joe Johnson, they took Kedrick Brown, and then they took Forte at 21. And I would always read it as, boy, they really wanted you. They passed on you 3 times. Did they ever tell you what happened?
No, the story they told me, it was like North Carolina. It was a good friend with Red Auerbach, and that's why they did that thing with Joe Forte. But at the time, Joe Forte had a great career, in North Carolina. He was playing very well. So it's hard to argue, especially like I said earlier in the interview. At the time, no European point guard made it in NBA. So why a little French guy from Normandy, So that's why it was very risky.
What was the biggest American thing that you were like, okay, it's different? You're calling your buddies back home, and it's cool to read in the book like how close you are with all your friends, how you made them part of your journey. And Boris and Ronnie were players that were of your generation. They make it to the pros, but that first American experience, the thing that you were like, okay, this is how it's different here in this country.
Just the discipline and the dedication in the weights in the weight room and how fast the game was going. That was the stuff that I thought it was very different from Europe.
So Popovich didn't like you, but he doesn't like anybody. Eventually he loves you. But that's, the great thing about Pop is I've always heard it described as this real, like almost militant attitude where, hey, we're going into a fight. We're going to a fight all the time. But it seemed like because I remember those first games, he was yelling at you all the time. But it seems like the only person that liked you less was perhaps Duncan. What was that first year with Tim like?
Well, first of all, for Pop, is like he crossed the line many times, and that's why it was funny at my jersey retirement when he started to apologize to me, and people was like, "Why did he do that?" I was like, "Well, you have no idea the way he was cursing."
He'd insult you, right? What would he say to you? Like, what's the worst thing Pop ever said to you?
I don't want to curse on your show because maybe
you can.
kids are going to watch. I don't know. I don't want to curse on your show, but it was really bad words, really bad words. But that was his way, to get you going, and get you motivated. And for me, he came from a good place, and he was very competitive, and he wanted to win, and it was fine with me. And you can either take it or not take it. And I decided to take it and go on the ride with him, and it paid off big time. And with Timmy, same thing. Timmy didn't talk to me the whole first year.
Didn't say a word to you for the year, for your rookie year. Didn't talk to you.
No, but he was he was a superstar, and maybe he had doubts, that a little French point guard can bring him to the championship, and so the point guard position is very important. And so that's why the first time he talked to me is after I had a good series against Gary Payton in the Seattle Supersonics, and I played well in that series, and Gary was one of the best point guards in the NBA, and so I think Timmy saw that if I can play like that against Gary, then I can maybe play like that against anybody, and that gave me a lot of confidence, obviously. And then I played good against the Lakers too. They eventually win the championship, the Lakers, but I had a good series. And after that summer, that's when I saw the difference with Timmy, and even most of my teammates. They were like, "Okay, we can go to war with him."
What was Gary like the first time you played him?
He was tough. He was tough. And he was one of my idols. Growing up, Michael Jordan was my idol. But at the point guard position, I looked up to Magic and Gary Payton. I loved Gary's confidence and the way that he was playing, the way he carried himself. I always loved watching him play when I woke up every night at 3 a.m. to watch his games. And so when I finally played against him in the playoffs, it was like, man, it was like a dream. I was like, man, I'm playing against Gary. So it gave me a lot of motivation that I wanted to show that I belong in this league, and I was so happy to play against him. And since then, he's always been great to me every time I met him.
As we're talking this through here, I almost feel like we're not giving you enough credit because maybe I'm assuming too much. Because it was instant though. They made you the starter right away. You're 19 out of the draft, yes. And even the numbers. I mean, the numbers. This isn't like you were scoring 4 or 5 points a game the first couple of years and figuring out. You were producing right away, even though you had much bigger scoring options. So. Was there ever a part where you thought, maybe this is actually easier than I thought it was growing up worshiping these players, and yet here you are, and you're out there on a good team, and you're really productive, and he makes you the starter so soon in your career?
No, not really.
Easy, I know is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if there's ever a moment where you go, wait.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, but I never felt like that. I always felt like I had to prove something, and once you achieve your goal, you want to go higher. And so at first it was being a good backup, then a good starter, and then let's try to be an all-star. And then after that, you were like, you know what? I want to I want to have an impact, in this league, and I want people to remember me, after I'm done playing, And so being an ambassador for French basketball and the Hall of Fame, all that kind of stuff is like you never, that's not a goal. But once you're in it, you let's try to go as high as we can, and let's try to win as many championships as we can.
Duncan, maybe it's his approach, maybe it's his personality, but I feel like there's always this list of players that get mentioned before him. But if there was a wing that had 5 championships, I don't know that we would put some of these others ahead of him. I know it's going to be biased. I think I'm biased because I liked him so much. I just felt like for years, you're like, I'm just going to ride that guy. Like, just give me him. Mm-hmm. Give me your first-person perspective of having somebody like him be your franchise player versus somebody like Kobe.
Well, it's different positions, so it depends, what you have in your team. But I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. Timmy had 5 championships. Kobe has 5 championships. Both of them were great leaders. And so to me, with any of them, have the mentality, they show up every night.
Why there's obvious stuff with his fundamental approach that he didn't need the ball all the time, that you could run that post, where you would immediately cut off of it. He could set up in different spots. I always thought it was funny that he was so determined to say he wasn't a center when really he was basically playing center in your closing offense. Why was he always so freaked out about the power forward center thing?
I don't know, maybe out of respect of David Robinson, because David was the center. So he started as power forward, and like that he can play with him, and he just kept it like that the whole time, I guess. But he was definitely playing a lot of center, for sure. But he played a lot of power forward too. And to me, he's the best power forward of all time.
Your first impressions of playing with Manu, because I think Pop may have yelled at him more than he yelled at you at times.
No, he definitely yelled more at me. You can ask anybody at the Spurs; they will tell you that for sure. I have the gold medal on that. But he definitely screamed a lot on Manu. That's for sure, because he was so creative, and I think Pop thought he was crazy when he first got him with his crazy passes and all that kind of stuff. But Manu was great. He was unique in his own way, and me, because I followed Europe. I knew Manu way before you arrived with the Spurs, because I was watching the EuroLeague and he was playing great in Italy. And so when he finally decided to come to San Antonio, I was super excited because I knew we were getting a great player.
Now, you mentioned in the book, and it's true, you could have left, you could have made more money. In 2003, how upset were you about the Jason Kidd free agency thing? Because that was, hey, this team just won another title, but wait, they can go ahead and grab Jason Kidd. It's going to take your spot.
At the time, I totally understand, because nobody could have predicted what I was going to do as a player, during this career. So you go after Jason Kidd, who's one of the best point guard, maybe the best point guard at the time in the NBA. I totally understand.
Yeah, and you also, like you say, hey, so many players want to go to New York, they want to go to Los Angeles. What was it about you three guys, and Manu and Tim, where you took less money and you loved San Antonio? You loved this city that so many other NBA players, at least of this generation, would eventually say, oh, no, I want to go somewhere else. What was different about your team?
You just feel it, I felt like we had something special, and I always never took it for granted. I felt very blessed to be in San Antonio with great people, great fans, great city. And that's why I didn't want to leave. When you have something special and the people around you, they feel the same way, you just realize that that's worth all the money in the world.
Tougher loss for you, the 13 finals or the Derek Fisher shot?
13 finals, game 6.
You still just saying close. It right. Yeah, it's not even close. Okay, so
yeah, no, not even close. For me, that's the biggest loss in my career, for sure.
What was it like that night? Did you guys go out to dinner after game 6?
Yeah, we had dinner, and it was horrible dinner. That's for sure, because everybody was so down, and we had one more game to play. So, but it was hard to digest what just happened. But I thought, if you take in consideration what happened, we give it a great effort in game 7.
But did you think there was? In the book, you basically kind of feel like, yeah, we're not going to win this. Is that how you felt at the time? It's tough thing to admit.
It was a weird feeling, because you're like, man, if that happened and it goes that way, for them, you just feel like maybe it's their year, But I thought we fought it pretty hard. Game 7 was pretty tough.
In 2007, you win the NBA championship, sweeping LeBron. You win a Finals MVP, which I love that you admit how important that was to you. Why did you stop talking to everybody during that stretch? Because you thought it was because you didn't want to jinx your chance of winning the NBA Finals MVP?
I just wanted to stay focused. And I was realizing that I could have become the first European, and so I just wanted to stay laser focused and finish the job.
And so you stopped reading all media stuff during that time, though, correct?
Yeah, I was trying to make Pop happy, not talk to the media,
You had that part down. Now, moving towards the role that you have now in Asvel, a team that you grew up attached to, and now you're part of the ownership, and you even have a kid, Theo, going in the draft tonight, depending on where he ends up going. What is that like for you, changing the perspective of the player that works for the team, and you're going to look at it kind of selfishly, and now you can't be selfish as someone that oversees a franchise?
No, I'm very proud of Theo. Known him since he's 12 years old. When he came to my basketball camp and followed him ever since. We come from the same region and had a good when he was 16 with Asvel, and we won a championship together in 2019. And it's funny to be on the other side. I feel like I can now understand what Pop and RC was feeling when they saw my career and the way I was growing. Now to see him, becoming a man and being in the draft, I'm excited for him tonight. And hopefully he goes to a good team and have a successful career in the NBA.
Does that mean a lot of your, like a guy like James Borrego or other guys that are on staffs now are calling you about him all the time? Asking for
A
your
lot of
scouting
people
report?
is calling right now, especially at draft time for sure. So it's funny to just be on the other side, and it's funny when you have your old teammates like Malik Rose, all the people that I know that having great jobs, and now we're all on the other side. It's funny.
Who was the one guy, as we have a few more questions for you, the one guy that you're so competitive and you're so confident. So I don't mean to say that, but there had to have been one player like, okay, this is going to be tougher. Like, who was the one other point guard that you're like, okay, he's coming up on Friday night. Like, this is going to be a
I
battle.
don't have like a one guy because when I was playing, it was like the golden generation. Because you had Jason Kidd and Gary Payton was still playing, and then Steve Nash, and then Chris Paul, Darren Williams, Westbrook, Steph Curry. I all played them. We were all playing at the same time, and we were all in our primes. One year in the All-Star game, it was like 4 or 5 point guards, in the team. Like, it was so many point guards because we were all playing at a high level. And so it's not one guy. To me, it was just great to play in a generation where it was so many great point guards, and it was a great challenge every night.
Was there one point guard, perhaps, though, that changed your defensive approach, not just for you, but as a team? Where, I think Steph in his peak impacts the way you're constantly paying attention to him. Was Steve Nash like that? Or was it a Baron Davis physically?
If I had to choose, maybe Steph Curry. We definitely had to pay more attention to him, and Steve Nash to a certain extent too. When they had those great years in Phoenix, Chris Paul too in New Orleans, he was really really tough in New Orleans. So I'll say that was the three that maybe we had to do more stuff in defense.
You come back, you win that title in 2014. It seemed like you were so motivated. How important was the 13 loss to drive what I thought was a team? Like, you guys were mad the whole season, it felt like. And I imagine that played a big part.
Yeah, we won a mission. Success. We won a mission in 2014, that's for sure. And that's why I think we played so good, is because 13 hurt so much that when we came back, we were like a lot of people were writing us off and saying, "Oh, we missed our last opportunity. We're too old." And to show that character and the bounce back and the way we played in the finals, I think that was maybe the best Spurs basketball in my whole career.
At the end, your last season is Kawhi's last season. We know the story. How difficult was that for your generation of Spurs players? Were you always bought in? It was the team, it was the team, it was the team. And then for Kawhi to just basically say, I want out of here. What was that like? How was that challenging?
Everybody is different. I only have good stuff to say about Kawhi. I had great years with him. We were playing unbelievable together. We won a championship together. So I feel very blessed that I played with him all those years because he was very good for us. And then he decided to do something else. That's everybody's right.
I'm really happy for you, man, from the story, how the book builds up. Hey, this confident guy that was being doubted all the time. And every time you show up at every competition, you bust everybody. And you did it throughout your NBA career, man. And now you're really, really successful businessman. So I'd encourage everybody to check it out. Beyond All My Dreams, Tony Parker, NBA champ. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Take care.